Welcome to the Train Your Brain podcast. We are your hosts, Ed and Brittany Holmes, and we are the founders and coaches of a company called Axios Coaching. And we started this podcast, Train Your Brain, to give you a little bit of what we do with people one-on-one in your back pocket.
Yeah, the whole goal of Axios Coaching is to help you get unstuck. And unstuck, why? To help you create a meaningful life. This mixture of fulfillment, purpose, and adventure. So during this podcast, we're going to cover an infinite amount of topics that allow us to keep moving our lives forward into something that's meaningful and matters to us.
Yeah, let's get into it. Okay, today we are talking about something that we discussed briefly in one of our recent midweek motivation emails. If you don't get those, you can easily get on our email list. Just go to axioswellness.com/start-here and download one of our freebies and you'll be on the list.
Yeah.
But this topic is going to be a little bit of a hot topic.
Well, yeah. We're going to talk about entitlement.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how resentment leads to bitterness, which then leads to entitlement.
Yeah. And bitterness and resentment, two sides of the same coin. And both are an entryway to entitlement.
Right.
The premise of what we're going to talk about is entitlement, weirdly, is actually us playing victim.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So,
and there's benefits to that.
Yeah.
We often don't think of it that way.
Yeah. So
no one wants to be the victim.
Our map today, we're going to talk about how bitterness, resentment leads to entitlement, like how missed expectation leads to feeling like I'm owed something.
Right.
And anytime I'm going through life feeling like I'm owed, I'm actually playing victim.
Mm-hmm. It literally takes me out of the driver's seat.
Yeah.
Like I'm literally handing over the reins, in essence, of my life because I'm saying, they owe me. I can't do anything to change this situation.
Yeah. We've seen this show up in couples we coach, in relationships. We've seen this show up in our lives as we've navigated the areas that God is showing us we've been playing victim to.
Yep.
Right?
It shows up for everyone. No matter who you are, what your background is.
Yeah. And so we're going to give you some indicators, some checkpoints, some indicator lights on how we can see that.
Yeah. And
again, the real practical steps of getting out of it.
Well, and I think before we dive into it, let's identify, why does this matter? Mm-hmm. Like, why is it even important to understand when we're in this kind of frame of mind of entitlement?
Yeah. Ultimately, again, entitlement and victimhood go hand in hand, right? And I will struggle to create the life that I love and a meaningful life if I'm convinced that someone else owes me something that therefore would unlock me being able to do it.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, we've lived in that state.
Yeah.
Like we were in a place where we perpetuated that mindset for years. Mm-hmm. And we were so stuck and we were so frustrated. It was actually the state of being that led us to working with our first coach, Ronnie. And I think back at that time, we didn't have it's not like we had this framework of like, we're in entitlement and we're choosing to be in entitlement. No, it's like we legitimately thought that everything that was happening around us was out of our control and that we didn't have any ability to change it.
Oh, and that ultimately we were being taken advantage of. Right. That other people were getting benefits that meant I could not receive them.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we don't have time on this specific one to dive into this, but entitlement is also rooted in scarcity. Mm-hmm. That if you're winning, I must be losing.
Yeah, there's only so much light or success.
Sunlight to go around.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think a real easy way to see how this shows up is in relationships.
Yeah.
So,
because again, relationships are our biggest need.
Our biggest need. Yeah, absolutely. So I think if we talk through a relationship analogy, we love to use the dog barking when we're in bed.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then allow that to kind of trickle into other concepts. So let's say you and I both worked a really long day. Like, you cooked dinner. I cleaned up multiple times. We've been running around all day. You were in meetings. I were in meetings. and we're laying in bed, and one of our dogs, let's say Thor, because it happened to him most recently, starts making the vomit sound.
Which, is there anything that like causes you to move quicker than the sound of your dog starting to throw up?
No.
Like, I don't know if there's anything that is.
So I hear it, and I roll over thinking, I worked so hard today, I did all the cleaning, I did all this stuff. Brittany should be the one. If she only appreciated how much that I work, like, if she only understood the effort and the energy I'm putting into creating momentum for our businesses, at the same time, you're thinking the same thing in reverse about me, right? All right, I am bitter at you. I'm resentful towards you because I don't feel appreciated or acknowledged or whatever it is for everything that I'm doing, right? So now, because I feel bitter towards you, I feel entitled to not show up well.
Yeah.
Right?
She's not doing her part.
I'm
not going to do mine.
Yeah, she owes me.
Right.
Right? Entitlement is, I am owed this.
Yeah.
I deserve this.
Right. Well, and you can see how you play that out long enough, you repeat that process often enough, and it's not a wonder why couples end up not being able to stay together.
Yeah.
Because they're not even, which I'm probably jumping ahead a little bit, but like we get to a point in that place in relationships where we're not even interacting with the person authentically anymore. We're only interacting with the story that we've been telling ourselves through that lens of entitlement about them for months or years or even decades.
That I'm ultimately playing victim to.
Yeah, and I'm so right, and they're so wrong.
I'm so right about how wrong this is.
Exactly.
Yeah. So entitlement, I am owed something, and that I'm owed something is based in the story I'm telling myself.
Right.
It's a set of facts that I have weaponized to justify why I should feel like I'm being taken advantage of.
That's such a intense word, but it's so important to recognize that that's what's happening. Like that we are weaponizing a series of actions that someone has done that may or may not actually have anything to do with what I think it has to do with.
Yep.
And then using that to prove our own story true.
Yep.
Like that's a really dangerous hole that we can fall into really quickly.
So then I'm now playing victim, right? I'm being taken advantage of and I'm owed, right? Like it's
the world's against me. Everyone should, the world owes me.
If they would just give me what I deserve, then I wouldn't be stuck here anymore.
Or if I would just, like this happens often in jobs, right? Like if I was just given the promotion that I deserve, then I could show up and have the tools that I need to really show up my best at work.
Yeah.
Right?
And if we think about, there's benefits to playing a victim, which we'll get to in a second. And yet, well, no, actually, let's start with the benefits and then talk about how we feel. I think that's the right order. The benefits of playing victim is I get to avoid all accountability. Right? If they would just give me what I deserve, then my life would be better.
Yeah, they're withholding from me, so I can't do what I need to do.
And you can't hold me accountable.
Yeah.
If they would, then I would.
Yep.
Right? So I get to avoid all accountability. It's a real safe place to live.
Yeah, because you always have fallback. You always have the it's on them, it's not on me.
Yeah. I get to save face.
Yep.
Right? And then I get to control through manipulation. I am owed. I'm entitled. I get to walk into the room with this air of superiority, and yet really what I'm doing is manipulating.
Well, that's where the weaponizing comes from. That's where manipulation happens.
So victimhood, entitlement parades itself as this empowering emotion. And yet, if we think about the feelings associated with the word victim, if someone's truly being victimized, how do they feel? They feel stuck. Powerless. Angry, powerless, resentful, frustrated. So entitlement promises on the front side, hey, this is going to be empowering. You're going to get what you need by convincing people that they owe you. Go get what's yours, right? Go take it by force if you need to. Like weaponize your emotions. Do all this kind of stuff. And then yet internally,
show them what they're missing.
Internally, what I'm feeling is weak, taken advantage of, frustrated, stuck. So based on results, victimhood, this entitlement thing, does not end up helping me sustainably build what I'm looking to build.
Right.
It might be rocket fuel. There's a lot of emotions that are rocket fuel. They push you high fast.
They're really effective in the short term, man. They blast you up there.
And then they burn out, right? And then I'm left with the actual emotion I've been feeling and hiding, which is stuck, frustrated. Man, why can't I just figure this out? Why can't I move forward? If we were to compare and contrast that with taking responsibility. Mm-hmm. I am at cause. Yeah. I am at cause for my experience. I am responsible for what I'm experiencing in my life. Yeah. Right?
Well, this comes back to the benefits of playing the victim, because the reason we don't, it's super uncomfortable to take responsibility, because then we are forced, and we have both lived this out. So I can say this from experience. When I start taking responsibility for my action, I then actually have to reconcile all of the times that I chose to stay in that place of entitlement and hurt others in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. The analogy that we read in a book by Byron Katie. Mm-hmm. So analogy
called The Work.
Or Loving What Is another version of that. Is if we were watching an outdoor movie and there was a smudge on the screen, and we go get a new screen and there's still a smudge, and then I go get a new screen and there's a smudge, and I get a new screen and there's a smudge. Eventually, I'm going to realize...
Well, they wouldn't take you 5 times.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty thick-headed sometimes. Eventually, I'm going to realize, oh, shoot, it's the projector.
Yeah. Man, who's messing up all these screens?
Yeah, it's me. It's the projector. Yeah. It's the I project.
Yeah, it's the belief that I have that I'm projecting out into the world.
I am the common denominator in all the things that I feel I'm being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Right? So then...
It's in the words of Taylor Swift, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
And the interesting thing is we can so come to believe and even find deep motivation from the fact that the world is against me.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's interesting to call out that there are genuinely people. I know for me, for a long season, I found motivation in the fact that I have something to prove. Mm-hmm. I have this chip on my shoulder. I never get what I deserve. I work so hard. I work harder than anybody else, right? These are the beliefs that we perpetuate, and it becomes this, it's only to kind of fuel that we end up knowing.
Yeah. And again, the entitlement starts showing up in, we start cutting corners, and we start showing up poorly for other people. Yep. And we start taking advantage of people, and we start doing things that we said we would never do because, man, I'm owed.
Well, and then we lose sight of things that actually matter most to us. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So we find ourselves stuck in this loop. I'm owed. I'm cutting corners. I feel bad. I'm owed. Cutting corners. The world's against me. I'm victim. It feels really empowering. And yet based on results, I'm stuck. Right? So the way out is to take responsibility. I'm the cause. I'm the projector. I am responsible to move my life forward.
Right.
That is on me.
It doesn't mean that there aren't things that happen that are wrong.
That are wrong.
Both are true.
And I am also at choice with the story I tell myself about those things.
I think one of them, I know for me, one of the most powerful shifts, our therapist, counselor, Dr. Laura said this to me when I first started working with her is, Brittany, what if you could see that everything that has happened to this point in your life has happened for you instead of to you?
Yep.
And that has been one, I think, the most freeing way out of that lens of entitlement.
Yeah. Life happens for me, not to me, for my development. Right.
Even the really painful things.
Yep. Yeah. We got really rough news today.
Yeah.
About literally less than an hour ago about a family we really love, and
really unjust
thing. And we know that God works all things together for good for our development to be more like Jesus. Mm-hmm. And
to be honest,
I have no idea how that's going to happen.
And to be honest, I felt myself slip into that victim mindset. Mm-hmm. It's wild how quickly that can come back.
Yeah. So we take responsibility. I'm a cause. This is happening for me, not to me. And 2 ways to get back into that, 2 tools to put a bow on this concept today is be generous, serve, and be grateful.
Yeah.
The 2 G's, generous and gratitude.
Yeah. On that idea of gratitude, I heard this has been really encouraging and challenging to me, is that there's actual scientific studies that have proven that Anxiety and gratitude cannot live in the brain at once.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of our anxiety comes from feeling out of control.
Yeah.
From feeling like everything around us is happening to us instead of for us. And so that's one of the quickest ways to bring ourselves back to the surface is rooting ourselves in gratitude.
So full disclosure, our podcast studio that we're using and learning just glitched out.
It did.
So this might be a rough cut you just experienced.
Yes. And we apologize if that's true. But where we left off, we're talking about the 2 ways, quick ways to get out of this mindset of entitlement.
Gratitude and generosity.
Yeah. Gratitude is one of our favorite go-tos. Scientifically, it's proven that gratitude and anxiety cannot exist in the brain at the same time.
Yeah, so we do something called a gratitude countdown.
Yep.
We do it when we feel we need it, and it is a darn near daily practice for us.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And on the days when it's not daily, we feel it.
Yeah, so start at 10, go down to 1, you go, I go, 10 things that we're grateful for, the more specific, the better. Yeah. So not just, I love the house,
right?
But like, I love the way the sun comes in the living room when I'm doing my devotions right now.
Yeah. These things that elicit an emotional response in you, because that's what allows you to be grounded back into the present.
And there has been days where it's, man, I'm glad I'm alive.
Yeah.
And that my limbs are here and that I have a flushing toilet. Like when life feels like nothing's going my way, it is so empowering to still find things to be grateful for.
It's so important.
Yeah.
And then the second thing
is being generous.
Yeah.
Go serve.
Yeah.
Give something away.
Be reminded that you have something to offer.
Yeah. And probably more than I think I do.
Yeah, I was going to say, when we engage in these acts of generosity, these acts of service, we're reminded that we actually have an area of abundance in our life, whether that's time or money or resources or network or family. Like I remember the first time we really experienced this. You shared this about growing up, of inviting friends that didn't have good family relationships during the holidays, and they would come and sit around your table. And that was such a reminder to you that you had an abundance of family. Yeah. Like that's not common.
No. Yeah. And so the lie of entitlement is because I don't have what I want here, then I don't have anything at all. Right?
Or doesn't look
like, or it doesn't look like
it
should,
yeah.
Or I deserve.
Right.
When I am rooted in gratitude and being generous, generally that thing that had taken over my life that I didn't have becomes really dim in light of all the other things.
Right.
And it puts me back into a responsible place. And then I'm more likely to create the conditions to experience what I want to experience anyways.
Yeah.
I'm not going to create those things playing victim from entitlement.
Exactly.
I will create that from taking responsibility, being generous, and being rooted in gratitude.
Yeah. So this is the challenge for this week. Those that are listening or watching online is pay attention to when you start to feel your mind slip into some of those victim mindsets or beliefs.
Yeah.
And you feel yourself getting resentful or bitter.
Or feeling stuck, frustrated, angry, entitled.
Yeah. And take action using gratitude or service. Like get the idea of giving back.
And it's probably both.
Yeah, it probably is both. We know for us, it has been both. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe. Subscribe to our podcast. It really helps this podcast reach more people. And we don't just do this for our own enjoyment, although we do enjoy it, except for the technical difficulties.
We're figuring it out, though.
We are. Slowly but surely. So thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you again next week.